lesson on expanding basic question and answer sequences. So I was thinking, in the first semester German course, what could we teach in terms of interaction or competence is probably two-part sequences, meaning adjacency pairs. So making students aware that a certain statement requires a certain response, right? So they have to match. Yeah. And what we can teach here are, of course, greetings, but also closings, and we've also got the question-answer sequences, right? And what plays in here are the WH questions we teach usually in first semester, so we can tie those two things, together very nicely. But also yes/no questions. So I think this is important, and this is what I actually did in my first semester German course last semester. So I started off teaching adjacency pairs. So I gave them transcripts and interactions, and they had to find the various sequences and how each pair part how they match. And I know from a conversation with my colleagues and also from my own experience teaching German that first semester students or beginning learners of German, they just stop talking after question answer. They start over again, right? So then it's question answer, and then that's it. Of course, you have a few who don't do that, who try and expand a little bit, but I thought it's also important to actually, expand on the basic question-answer sequence. And we're thinking about how this can be taught. And I'm actually going to be talking about that today. Last but not least, there was another point I taught in first semester German last semester, and this is auto-initiated repair. Because I think it's important that speakers can indicate to their partner that something went wrong, that they didn't hear something, or that they misunderstood something, and they're kind of requesting the partner to jump in and to repair. So I also did that. Honestly, after teaching now second semester German, I think that there's some things that I taught in second semester that I could actually move to first semester. So this is still all in process, still what can be taught at what level and what course. But again, today I'm going to be focusing on minimal expansions. Okay, so expanding a question-answer sequence, we all know that's not always necessary, right? Sometimes it's fine to just have an answer and a question and an answer, or you just have the sequence or the two-part sequence itself, and then you're done, right? But of course, you can also expand on that. So after the second pair part, like the answer. There are different options, right? You could maybe just produce a minimal post-expansion, something here, just some English examples like, oh, okay, or some assessments. And as Carmen was saying yesterday, this is also referred to as sequence building thirds. But there's still a little bit more you could do. And those are more non-minimal post-expansions could be produced as well. So you could maybe produce a topicalizer like really, and then kind of force the other one to say a little bit more, to produce at least another one or two turns before you then start over in a new sequence, for example. This example of ach so is actually one of those sequence closing thirds in German, and they actually do a little bit more than the English o. They're used to explicitly mark understanding of the prior action. And usually they just show up in the turn itself, and but usually what can also happen is that an assessment follows, or a confirmation check, or just a confirmation. And as I said, they close the sequence. Here's an example. Actually, an example I also used in the classroom. This is a conversation between Lina and Anna. It's just part of it. And Lina here is asking a question. She's asking where Mövenpick is. This is kind of like an ice cream parlor in Germany. And then Anna responds saying, okay, it's at this location. Asi is a lake. It's at that place. And then Lina going, ach so. It's more like I see. I understand. And then also confirming. Yes, sure. Yeah, so we've got the ach so here. So this is one of these little minimal expansions I want to teach in my classroom. Another example are assessments. We know here's some examples from English. Something like good, that's good, great, things like that. When you use them, you signal your partner that you're really involved in the activity and in the conversation, and you also take kind of like a stance, right, to what the other one is just that. And of course, you close the sequence again. Germans do that too. Okay, of course. Here's an example. This is ja schön, meaning something like that. That's nice. Okay. Here's Beate actually on the phone with Robert, asking a question, asking for Lina. So Beate wants to talk to Lina. Is Lina at home by any chance? And then Robert picking that up. So he's actually again using that by any chance, and then yes. I think he just tries to be funny here. And then Beate commenting on that, assessing that, saying, oh yeah, that's good, that's nice, great. Another example, and this is now, yeah, more or less a capitalizer. I would say examples here are yeah, or really, or did you really for English. And what you do here is that in the third turn, so after the second pair part, the speaker could actually use something like oh really, or in German it would be maybe echt or wirklich. And then actually require the other one to say a little bit more. Okay. And why do we do that? Okay, yeah, again, we want to elicit some more information. The information we got was new, was newsworthy, and so we want to hear some more. Okay, so it serves actually to initiate a post-expansion. So at least another turn, or maybe two from the other person. Here's an example from German, like oh really in German maybe echt, and there's some more examples. This is actually a conversation between three people, Nelly, Anna, Anja, and Lars. They're students and they are in their kitchen. They live together, they're in the kitchen, and they talk about bread. Okay, so Germans eat a lot of bread in the morning usually, and also for dinner. And here Nelly's asking a question, well, do you throw it away? And she means the bread. And Anja going, responding, yeah, often I do. So there's just a little piece of bread left, and I'll throw it away. And Lars going like, yeah, really? Now actually Anja is supposed to say a little bit more. Now she's supposed to explain why she's throwing away this little piece of bread, and here's her response, her expansion, and now she goes on explaining, well, if there's only a little piece left and it's been there for 10 days, and I just throw it out and buy new bread. Okay, so that's pretty much what she says here. I mean, the expansion here is already pretty long. I don't think that our students, especially like a few weeks into the semester, in the first semester, are able to say that much. So I'm kind of like just hoping for like one or two more turns. So the transcripts I showed you here, actually, transcript I would also use for my lesson. I got them from a website where actually German scholars working in Germany put together a bunch of audios, video files, and also transcripts of just people talking. And I'm very lucky to have access to that data. So question-answer sequences can be expanded after the second part, and as I said, there are minimal post-expansions, something like ach so, or assessments in German like gut or schön, or das ist gut, das ist schön. But of course there are also non-minimal post-expansions, right? You could also produce like a little word like echt, and then request the other one, or this way require the other one to say maybe another turn or two, right, and respond to that and say a little bit more. I'm also using Betz and Hoot's instructional phases to teach intellectual competence, and in particular expansions in this context. So the idea is to first reflect on how this particular language, is actually used in action, right? How does that actually work? Yeah, have students brainstorm on that. Then the idea is to contrast the L1 and L2 structures, analyze those structures, and then have students practice in speaking and writing, and then do some more reflection. Also, again, go back to maybe the differences and similarities between, in our case here, English and German. With the brainstorming activity, I wanted students to become aware of the fact that they can say a little bit more than just a question and answer. They can expand on that. So here the question is, how can you say a little bit more in the following situations? And here I'm helping them a little bit. I'm giving them some examples. As you can see down there, it says examples, right? And then, as you can see, question, answer, and then a gap for them to fill in. Okay, and this is something we do in English just to get them thinking. Okay. And as you can see in the second example, I'm giving them 2 gaps. Okay, so maybe you can already figure, okay, there's actually even more so we can say, not only 1 turn, but maybe even 2. So students do that in pairs, and then we collect the answers on the board even, and then we could also compare with the original responses. But once we're done with that, what I would actually do, or what I did, is that I move on to more examples, more English examples. And I have students find closings and also little words that trigger expressions in the transcript. Okay, and of course, before I do that, I need a plan, right? I mean, how many or what type of minimal expansions I actually want to teach, right? So this is all clear. So I only pick a few. So this is what the students do, and they just look at the transcripts and they try and find those little words, and then we'll do the same thing in German. Okay, so now they have German examples. Okay, so they find the question, they find the answer, and there's a little bit else, something there, okay, that they mark it. So actually, analysis, we're now identifying functions, okay? Now we're looking at, okay, what do we do and what do we say in English and in German, for example? And what works really well is a table. Give students a table, and here I put, okay, what we do, right? So we mark understanding of partner's contribution, for example. What do we say in English to do that? And what do we do in German to do that? And in German, we would probably use ach so. Yeah. Now the question is, what would you use in English, right? And then have like something like they will know what would you say in English, and of course they have a transcript where they see, okay, this is maybe what you would say then in English. And here's some more examples with the really in the echt wirklich part. So I think this is very nice to bring this all together and to make this. To show differences and similarities between the different expansions. And then we'll move on to practice. And I think what works really well is first to practice this in writing. So the students are doing a writing activity. This can be done individually or with a peer. I actually like the students with a peer. I think this is just better to work in teams. And then of course students present their responses to class. So here's some examples, what I would do, what kind of activity I would do. So bring these interactions to a close. These are the instructions, expand on them if possible, and then present your interactions in class. And these are very simple WH questions. Here's something like, wo ist Markus, where is Marcus? And then the person B responds, oh, he's on his way. So would you stop there, or would you actually, evaluate that, respond on that? What would you say in German? Okay, so now it's the student's turn to actually say something here, to write it out. Okay, another example, where do you live, or where are you from? Here, not where you live, but where you're from, or I'm from Munich. Okay, so, people, we usually wouldn't stop there, but maybe say a little bit more. Okay, so what would you say in German? So now we're moving from writing to speaking. And since actually, like some transcripts come from people talking about food, I kept the food theme. Okay, so here the instructions are, well, talk to your partner about eating habits. Okay, so you can of course use questions, the questions below. Something like, what do you like to eat, or do you like to eat bread? Given that Germans eat a lot of bread, that's actually something you would too, or not so much. What don't you like to drink, or what don't you like to drink, or do you drink coffee? Things like that. Of course, they can also add their own questions, ask more questions, other questions. And here the instructions are, instead of just asking the question and responding to that, just say a little bit more. Okay, so bring that little sequence to a close, or maybe expand on that. So that's the idea here. This is just a reflection phase, the wrapping up. Okay, so here students just reflect on the peer and what we did in class. So they reflect on these expansions. So they get questions to think about. First off, okay, that basic question and answer sequences can be expanded, right? So that's the main message. But I also want them to actually reflect on form and function. First off, every form has a function, right? And that there may be differences between German and English. Yeah, and this ties in with the second, with the third line here, with the similarities and the differences. Yeah. Okay. So, and of course, they talk with the peer first, then we bring it to the whole class, and then talk about this some more. This can actually be done in English, which is fine. It's only maybe 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll wrap this up. Some colleagues asked me, okay, well that's great, Katharina, but how do you expand on that? How do you expand on expansions, okay, in your classroom? But what's next, okay? And I thought about this, and as I was saying, this what I did here, I implemented in first semester German. Now the question is, well, I mean, what could be next in second semester German, for example? And well, we could teach more of these minimal expansions, right? There are a lot more. Something we could also try in second semester German. I haven't, but I would love to try that. Is teach minimal expansions that are similar in form but maybe different in function. And here you see three that are, if you look at them, are kind of similar. We've got the ach so and the ach. They're kind of similar, right? And we got the o. There's also German O, which is not quite like the English O. So we can talk about that, right? So this is something we can do in second semester. I think what we can do here is then maybe expand even more and expand topics, even go beyond our minimal expansions and beyond the echt, wirklich, and then the student produces one or two turns. Now we can say a little bit more.